The gun pressed against my temple felt cold, almost comforting in its certainty. I'd been in worse situations before, tortured, beaten, left for dead in a Dublin alley when I was 16. But this time was different. This time, I was chained to a platform under blinding spotlights while hundreds of eyes devoured me like a piece of meat. Lot 47, the auctioneer. Hess' voice boomed through the underground hall. A rare specimen, Irish bloodline, untouched and magnificently wild. Gentlemen, this omega has never been broken, perfect for those who enjoy the art of discipline. I spat blood onto the polished floor, earning nervous laughter from the crowd. My wrists burned where the silver chains bit into my skin, and my ribs screamed from the beating ID received when ID tried to escape earlier. But I kept my chin up, kept my eyes defiant. I'd rather die on this stage than give these bastards the satisfaction of seeing me beg. That is when I saw him. In a sea of leering faces and greedy eyes, one man sat perfectly still in the back row. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my family, his entire immigration papers, and his amber eyes were fixed on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Unlike the others who looked at me with lust or cruelty, his expression was unreadable, dark, dangerous, and somehow different. Starting bid, 50,000, the auctioneer announced. The man didn't move, didn't even blink. 75,100. The bids climbed higher, and I felt my soul dying with each number. I closed my eyes, thought about my younger sister Maeve safe in Boston, thought about how at least she'd never know what became of me. The debt collectors who sold me had promised to leave her alone if I came quietly. It was the only reason I hadn't fought harder. 500,000. A voice from the front row. Some sweating pig with rings on every finger. 600. Another predator, this one in a white suit that made my skin crawl. Then, clear as a church bell, cutting through the chaos, $1 million. The entire hall fell silent. I opened my eyes to find the amber-eyed man standing, his voice carrying the kind of authority that made even hardened criminals straighten in their seats. He hadn't raised his voice, hadn't even moved from his spot. But somehow, everyone knew the bidding was over. The auctioneer's gavel cracked down. Sold to Mr. Moretti. I woke up in a car, expensive leather seats, the scent of cologne and gun oil, and the gentle purr of an engine that cost more than most houses. My body screamed in protest as I tried to sit up, and that is when I realized someone had draped a suit jacket over me. Cashmere, warm, and far too kind a gesture for what I was expecting. The man, Moretti, sat across from me, his face illuminated by the passing streetlights. Up close, he was even more intimidating, sharp jawline shadowed with stubble, hair black as midnight oil, and those eyes that seemed to see straight through my bravado to the terrified boy underneath. "Where are you taking me?" My voice came out, hoarse, broken. "My home." "To do what? Chain me up somewhere nicer? Dress me up for your friends?" I laughed bitterly, tasting blood in my mouth. "Just kill me now. I won. Be anyone's toy." He lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating the harsh planes of his face. "I don't play those games, Kieran." The sound of my name on his lips startled me. "How do you?" The auction house provided documentation, your name, your history, everything your creditors knew about you. He took a long drag, exhaled smoke toward the window. "You witnessed something, didn't you? Something that made you more valuable dead than alive." I said nothing, but my silence was answer enough. "Thought so." He tapped ash into a crystal tray. "You are safe now. I'll have doctors treat your injuries, give you a room, food, whatever you need. When you are healed, you can leave if you want." "Why?" The word burst out of me, raw with confusion and suspicion. "Why would you spend $1 million just to let me go?" For the first time, something flickered in those amber eyes, something almost human. because I've seen enough people broken by this world. Consider it a moment of weakness. The Moretti estate was a fortress disguised as a palace, high walls, armed guards, and enough security cameras to make a prison jealous. But inside, my room was nothing like imagined. Soft bed, attached bathroom, windows that actually opened. A kind-faced woman named Rosa brought me food and medicine, never asking questions when I flinched at sudden movements. The doctors came next, real ones, not the back. Alley butchers, ID known in Dublin. They set my broken ribs, stitched up the cuts, gave me painkillers that actually worked. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe without feeling like my chest was caving in. Dante, ID learned his first name from the staff, never came to see me during those first days. ID catch glimpses of him through the window sometimes, crossing the courtyard in the early morning, always dressed in those perfect suits, always surrounded by men who moved like predators. The household staff spoke his name with a mixture of fear and devotion that told me everything I needed to know about the kind of man who bought me, a mafia boss, a killer, an alpha who commanded an empire built on blood and violence. And yet he covered me with his jacket, promised me freedom, looked at me like I was something more than merchandise. 3 weeks later, I was healed enough to travel. Rosa helped me pack the few belongings they given me, clothes that actually fit, toiletries, even some money. My hand was on the front door when I heard the explosion. The blast threw me backward, and suddenly the mansion was chaos, gunfire, shouting, the acrid smell of smoke. Strong hands grabbed me, dragged me behind a pillar as bullets tore through the foyer. I looked up into the scarred face of one of Dante's men. "Stay down," he growled, returning fire. But I'd already seen them, men in black tactical gear, carrying weapons that had no place in a civilian setting, and the insignia on their shoulders made my blood run cold. Not Dante's enemies, mine, the people I witnessed committing murder, the ones who put a price on my head that made $1 million look like pocket change. They found me. I watched Dante's men fall one by one, watched blood pool on marble floors, and I knew this was my fault. These people were dying because of me. I scrambled to my feet, ready to give myself up, ready to trade my life for theirs. And then Dante was there. I'd never seen anything like it. He moved through the gunfight like death incarnate, each shot precise, each movement calculated. 2 men went down before they even saw him. 3 more fell as he crossed the room. His amber eyes were cold, merciless, and when the last attacker tried to use me as a human shield, Dante put a bullet between his eyes from 20 feet away. The silence after was deafening. Dante crossed to me, his suit splattered with blood that wasn't his, and gripped my shoulders. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head, unable to speak. His jaw tightened. "They came for you. The people from the auction house gave up your location." He released me, began barking orders to his men. "Clean this up. I want to know who funded this attack, and I want them dead by morning." "Dante," my voice cracked. "I am sorry. I did. No, they go upstairs. We'll talk when this is handled." I should have obeyed, should have run to my room and locked the door. But instead, I found myself following him to his office, watching as he poured 2 glasses of whiskey and downed his without stopping for breath. "You saw a political assassination," he said finally, not looking at me. "Senator Morrison, 3 months ago in Dublin. You were working at the restaurant where they held the meeting." I froze. "How did you?" "I make it my business to know things." He poured another glass. "Morrison was on my payroll. His death cost me significant influence in Washington. The people who killed him are powerful, connected, and very good at making problems disappear." "That is what I am to them," I whispered. "A problem, not anymore." He finally met my eyes, and the intensity there stole my breath. "I handled the men who attacked tonight. By tomorrow, I'll have handled everyone above them. By next week, the entire organization responsible will cease to exist." "Why would you do that for me?" He smiled then, cold and sharp as a blade. Because you are mine now, Kieran. I bought you, remember, and I protect what is mine. I am not yours, I shot back, that familiar defiance rising in my chest. You said I could leave. You could have, you should have. He crossed to me, and God help me, I did, and T stepped back. But you are still here, and now UV brought a war to my doorstep. So here is my offer. You stay. You work for me as my personal assistant, and I keep you alive, or you leave, and you are dead within 48 hours. That is not much of a choice. No, he agreed. It is not, but it is the only one you have. I should have been angry, should have told him to go to hell, but standing there in his office, surrounded by the smell of gun smoke and expensive whiskey, with his amber eyes burning into mine, I felt something shift inside me. Fine, I said. I'll stay, but I am keeping my own room, and you don't touch me unless I say so. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, respect, agreed. He held out his hand, and after a moment, as hesitation, I shook it. His grip was firm, warm, and sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. What the hell was I getting myself into? The next 3 months were a crash course in organized crime. Dante hadn't been lying about the assistant position. He actually expected me to work. I managed his schedule, screened his calls, attended meetings where men discussed murder over espresso like they were planning a birthday party. I learned the hierarchy of his organization, memorized faces and names, and which ones would sell their mothers for the right price. But more than that, I learned about Dante himself. He was brutal, yes. I watched him break a man, his fingers for skimming money, seen him order executions with the same casual tone most people used to order pizza. But he was also fair. He paid his people well, protected their families, and enforced a strict code within his organization. No drugs near schools, no touching civilians, and absolutely no trafficking. I am a criminal, not a monster, he told me once, after I asked about his rules. There is a difference. The scariest part was how comfortable I became, how normal it felt to discuss body disposal over breakfast, to carry a concealed weapon everywhere I went, to sleep in a house guarded by men who killed more people than I ever met, and how natural it felt to be near Dante. He was different with me than with everyone else. The cold, commanding alpha who made grown men tremble would actually listen when I argued with him about his schedule. He smirk when I corrected his English. His Italian accent sometimes massacred American idioms, and once, when I made a particularly cutting observation about one of his rivals, he laughed, actually laughed, a real sound of genuine amusement that transformed his entire face. I told myself it was just professional respect, told myself the way my heart raced when he walked into a room was just residual fear from being his employee, told myself I wasn't attracted to a man who literally bought me at an auction. I was lying to myself. The breaking point came during a dinner with his associates. I'd been serving drinks, playing the role of obedient assistant, when one of the guests, a fat man named Caruso, grabbed my wrist as I passed. Such a pretty omega, he slurred, alcohol making him bold. Moretti, you willing to share? I'll pay. He didn't get to finish. Dante had him by the throat, lifted clear off his chair, his face a mask of cold rage. Touch him again, and I'll feed you to the pigs slowly. The room went silent. Caruso turned purple, nodding frantically, and Dante dropped him back into his seat with disgust. Meeting over. Get out, all of you. They scrambled to obey, and suddenly I was alone with Dante in the dining room, my wrist still tingling where Caruso had grabbed me. You didn't have to do that, I said quietly. Yes, I did. He poured himself a drink, his hand shaking slightly, the only sign of how angry he still was. You are under my protection. That means something. I am not a child, Dante. I can handle myself. I know you can. He turned to face me, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. That is not why I did it. Then why? He crossed to me slowly, giving me every opportunity to move away. I did, till he stopped inches from me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. You know why, Kieran. And God help me, I did. I could see it in the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching, hear it in the slight softness his voice took on when he said my name, feel it in the way he always positioned himself between me and any potential threat. This wasn't protection, this was possession, this was desire, and the terrifying part was that I felt it too. This is insane, I whispered. You bought me, I work for you. You are an alpha, a mafia boss, and you are the most infuriating, stubborn, brilliant person I've ever met. His hand came up to cut my face, thumb brushing across my cheekbone. I've killed men for less than what Caruso did tonight. I've burned down empires for offenses that pale in comparison to touching what is mine. I am not yours, aren't you? His amber eyes burned into mine. Then why are you still here? Why haven't you left? I've given you money, documents, opportunities. You could be halfway across the world by now. Because the words stuck in my throat. Because I felt safer with him than I ever felt anywhere. Because when he smiled at me, it felt like the sun coming out. Because somewhere along the way, this dangerous, violent man had become home. Because what? Kieran. Before I could answer, my body answered for me. Heat flooded my system without warning, my first real heat since before the auction. I'd been on suppressants for years, but the stress and injury must have thrown off my cycle. I gasped, knees buckling, and Dante caught me. Shit, he growled, and I could hear the strain in his voice as my heat pheromones hit him. Kieran, I need to get you to your room. I need to. Don, tat, leave. The words tumbled out, desperate and needy. Please, Dante. I don't want to be alone. I don't want suppressants or isolation, or I grabbed his shirt, pulled him closer. I want you. You don't to know what you are saying. The heat is. I've wanted you for weeks. I looked up at him, saw my own desire reflected in his eyes. This isn't just the heat talking. I trust you. I choose you. Something broke in his expression. Kieran, if we do this, there is no going back. I'll mark you. I'll be mine in every way that matters. Good. I pulled him down, pressed my lips to his. Make me yours. He groaned against my mouth, and then his control shattered. He lifted me easily, carried me through the mansion while I wrapped my legs around his waist, kissing him desperately. We made it to his room, bigger than mine, dominated by a massive bed that smelled like him, and he laid me down like I was something precious. Last chance to change your mind, he said, voice rough with want. Instead of answering, I started unbuttoning my shirt. His eyes tracked every inch of exposed skin, and when I arched my back in invitation, he descended on me like a man starving. The heat made everything intense, every touch electric, every kiss essential. But beneath the biological imperative was something deeper. When Dante entered me, when he whispered my name like a prayer, when his teeth found my neck and the mark bloomed hot and permanent, it felt like coming home. I fell asleep in his arms, marked and mated and completely his. I woke up thinking it was all a dream. Then I saw Dante sitting on the edge of the bed, already dressed in a fresh suit, and the tender spot on my neck reminded me that last night had been very, very real. Morning, I managed, my voice rough. He turned, and the soft expression on his face made my heart skip. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck. A really good truck. I sat up, wincing slightly. We should probably talk about. The door burst open. Dante was on his feet instantly, gun drawn, but the intruder was Marco, his second in command, and the fear on his face made my blood run cold. "Boss, we have a problem. It is Giovanni." Dante's expression went glacial. "What about him?" "He has taken control of the eastern territories. Half the families have pledged to him. He is demanding you step down as Don, and he has leverage." "What kind of leverage?" Marco's eyes flicked to me. "He knows about the Omega. He is threatening to expose the relationship to the other families. Says an alpha who takes a male mate is too weak to lead." I felt the blood drain from my face. In the mafia world, traditional values ran deep. A Don was expected to marry a woman, produce heirs, maintain appearances. The fact that Dante had marked me, a male Omega, and one he bought at an auction, no less, could be used to undermine his authority. "How many men does Giovanni have?" Dante's voice was terrifyingly calm. "At least 200, maybe more." "And how many are still loyal to me?" 300. "But boss, if he goes public with this information, those numbers could change fast." Dante holstered his gun, straightened his cuffs. "Then we move first. Call the captains. I want everyone assembled in the warehouse by noon." "You are going to war?" I asked, horror creeping into my voice. He turned to me, and his eyes were cold in a way I'd never seen directed at me. "I am going to remind my family why I am Don. Get dressed. You are staying here with a security detail." "Like hell I am." I stood, wrapping the sheet around myself. "This is about me. I am not hiding while you are not trained for combat, Kieran. You'll be a liability. Then teach me to shoot. Give me a weapon. But Don, don't you dare lock me up like some damsel in a tower while you fight a war over my existence." We stared at each other, the tension crackling between us. Finally, Dante turned to Marco. "Give us a minute." When we were alone, he crossed to me, cupped my face in his hands. "I can lose you, do you understand that? I've killed, I've conquered, I've built an empire, and none of it means anything if you are not here." "Then don't go," I whispered. "Walk away, we can leave. Start over somewhere else. You don't need to be Don." "Yes, I do." His jaw tightened. "Because if I am not Don, I don't have the power to protect you. Giovanni won't stop with taking my position. He'll kill me, and then he'll kill you to eliminate any claim you might have on my estate. The only way you are safe is if I remain in power, or if I am not in the picture at all." The words tasted like ash. "If you disavow me publicly, tell everyone last night was a mistake." His kiss cut me off, fierce and possessive. "I would burn this entire city to the ground before I deny you. You are my mate, Kieran, my choice, and I don't make apologies for what is mine, even if it costs you everything. Especially then." The warehouse was a cathedral of violence, vast, empty, and echoing with the footsteps of armed men. Dante had ignored my protests and left me at the mansion under guard, but I watched from the security feeds as he entered alone, walking down the center aisle while 200 guns tracked his movement. Giovanni stood at the far end, a stocky man in his 50s with cold eyes and a cruel smile. "Dante, so good of you to come. You called a meeting of the families. Here I am." Dante, his voice carried easily in the cavernous space. "State your grievance." "Grievance?" Giovanni laughed. "I have no grievance, cousin. I merely wish to remind everyone of the old laws. A Don must be strong. A Don must uphold tradition. A Don must not shame the family by taking a male whore as his mate." Murmurs rippled through the assembled crowd. I saw men exchange glances, saw loyalty wavering in real time. "Watch your mouth," Dante said quietly, but his voice carried an edge that made several men flinch. "Or what? You all kill me in front of everyone. Prove my point that you've gone soft." Giovanni spread his arms. "I am not afraid of you anymore, Dante. You've shown weakness. You spent $1 million on a piece of auction trash, marked him like he means something, and now you expect us to follow you." I expect you to remember who built this family, who expanded our territory, who made us rich, who kept you all alive when the Russians came for us. Dante's hand rested casually on his holster. And I expect you to remember what happens to people who challenge me. Times have changed. You've changed. Giovanni pulled out a folder, held it up. I have photographs, witnesses, proof of your indiscretion. The other families are already laughing at us. The Irish, the Russians, even the Chinese think we're weak because our Don takes it from an Omega instead of giving it to one. The crude words made my stomach turn, but Dante didn't react. Are you finished? I am offering you a choice. Step down peacefully, exile yourself and your pet, and I'll let you live. Refuse, and this ends the old way. Silence stretched like a blade. Then Dante smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. The old way it is. He drew and fired in one smooth motion. Giovanni's head snapped back, blood spraying across the concrete. Before anyone could react, Dante had killed 3 more of Giovanni's supporters, moving with the fluid grace of a predator. Chaos erupted. Gunfire lit up the warehouse, men diving for cover, loyalties tested in blood and bullets. I watched from the security feed, my heart in my throat, as Dante fought like a man possessed. He took a bullet to the shoulder, didn't he even slow down. Another grazed his temple, and he just wiped the blood away and kept shooting. Then the feed cut to static. No, I lunged for the monitor, but the guard caught me. Let me go, I need to. Boss, Cess orders Mr. O'Connor. You stay here. He is dying. Dawn, do you understand? He is outnumbered and hurt, and my voice broke. Please. The guard's expression softened. Boss is the strongest alpha I've ever seen. I'll make it. But I could see the doubt in his eyes. I could just sit there. Couldn't he just wait to find out if the man I loved was dead or alive? I'd spent my whole life running from fights, hiding from danger, letting others make decisions for me. Not anymore. When the guard turned to check the other monitors, I grabbed the gun from his holster and ran. The warehouse was 20 minutes away by car. I made it in 12, driving one of Dante's vehicles like a madwoman, my hands shaking on the wheel. The sound of gunfire guided me the last few blocks, and I abandoned the car a street away, approaching on foot. Bodies littered the warehouse entrance. I stepped over them, my stolen gun held in front of me, the way Dante's men had taught me during training sessions. Thought were just for show. The main floor was a war zone, overturned crates, blood pooling on concrete, and the sharp smell of gunpowder, thick in the air. And in the center of it all, Dante stood surrounded by a dozen men, blood streaming from multiple wounds, his gun empty. Last chance, the man leading them said. One of Giovanni's captains. Yield, and I'll make it quick. Dante laughed, the sound edged with pain. Come and get me. They raised their weapons, and I didn't think. I just moved, putting myself between Dante and the guns, my own weapon aimed at the captain's head. Kieran, Dante's voice was harsh with fear. What the fuck are you doing here? Saving your stubborn ass. I kept my gun steady, even though my hands wanted to shake. Anyone shoots him, I shoot your captain. Then I die, he dies, everyone dies. Is that what you want? The men hesitated. The captain's eyes narrowed. You think we care about one Omega? No, I agreed. But you care about family, about loyalty, about what happens when you betray a man who has led you for 15 years. I raised my voice so everyone could hear. Giovanni challenged Dante because he thought marking me made him weak. But I am standing here now, aren't I, risking my life for him. That is not weakness, that is strength. You are just a whore he bought. Someone spat. Maybe. But I am a whore who loves him enough to die for him. Can any of you say the same about Giovanni? Would any of you take a bullet for him? I met each man, sighs in turn. Dante built this family. He He protected you, enriched you, bled for you, and you are going to kill him over who he takes to bed. Silence fell. I could feel Dante behind me, tense and ready to fight despite his injuries. Then, slowly, one of the men lowered his gun, then another, then three more. The captain's face twisted with rage. Traitors, all of you. He aimed at me, but Dante was faster. Despite his wounds, he moved like lightning, tackling the captain and slamming his head into the concrete with a sickening crack. When Dante stood, he surveyed the remaining men. Anyone else want to challenge me? They all dropped their weapons. Good. He swayed slightly, and I rushed to support him. Now get the fuck out of my sight, while I decide if you deserve to live. They scrambled to obey, and suddenly we were alone in a warehouse full of corpses, both of us covered in blood, both of us shaking. You could have died, Dante said, his voice raw. So could you, Kieran. I kissed him, tasting blood and smoke and relief. Dawn, do you dare lecture me? You were ready to die fighting rather than live without being Dawn. At least I was fighting for something worth dying for. He pulled back, amber eyes searching my face. And what is that? You idiot, I love you. The words hung between us, impossible and true. His hand came up to cut my face, thumb tracing my lower lip. I can give you everything, he said quietly. Money, power, protection. But I can't give you a normal life. I can't give you safety or peace or any of the things you deserve. All I can offer is a life of violence and danger, of always looking over your shoulder, of being loved by the most incredible, infuriating, impossible man I ever met. I smiled despite the tears on my face. That is all I want, Dante, just you. I love you, he said, and the words sounded like a confession. God help me, I love you so much it terrifies me. I would burn this city, abandon my family, give up everything. Don't he? I kissed him again, softer this time. Don't he give up anything, be the dawn. Be the alpha everyone fears. Just be mine too. Always, he promised. You are mine, and I am yours. Nothing else matters. The aftermath was messy. Half of Giovanni supporters were executed. The other half swore renewed loyalty on pain of death. Dante's position as Don was challenged twice more in the following months, but each time he crushed the rebellion with the ruthless efficiency that had made him legend. And each time I was there, not hiding, not cowering, but standing beside him as his mate and equal. The other families learned to accept it, or at least to keep their opinions to themselves. Dante made it clear that disrespecting me was disrespecting him, and nobody was stupid enough to do that twice. We made it work somehow. I ran his legitimate businesses during the day, handled the paperwork and meetings that kept the empire functioning. He handled the darker side, the violence and intimidation that maintained their power. At night we came home to each other, and that was enough. 6 months after the warehouse, Dante took me to a private beach in Sicily. We walked along the shore at sunset, his hand warm in mine, and he stopped at a spot where wildflowers grew between the rocks. My mother used to bring me here, he said quietly. When I was a boy, before the family consumed everything, she'd tell me that no matter how dark the world became, there was always beauty if you knew where to look. I squeezed his hand. She sounds wise. She was. He turned to face me, and in the golden light he looked younger somehow, less like the dangerous Don and more like just a man. I thought I'd lost the ability to see beauty, thought I'd become too dark, too violent, too stained by what I've done. Dante. But then I saw you on that auction stage, chin up despite everything, eyes full of defiance instead of defeat, and I knew I had to save you, had to protect you. He brought my hand to his lips. I didn't. No, I was saving myself too. Tears pricked my eyes. You gave me back my life. You gave me a reason to live. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and my heart stopped. I know we already mated. I know in the eyes of biology in my world, you are already mine. But I want to do this right. I want to give you the choice I took away when I bought you. He opened the box, revealing 2 matching rings. Simple bands of platinum, no diamonds or ostentation, just solid and permanent. Kieran O'Connor, will you marry me? Not because you are my omega or my mate, or because fate decided we belong together, but because you choose to, because you want to. I was crying now, full, unsobbing as I nodded. Yes, God, yes. He slipped the ring on my finger, and I did the same for him. Then he kissed me as the sun set over the Mediterranean, and everything felt right. We'd been forged in violence, brought together by chance and desperation, and $1 million that changed both our lives. We fought through betrayal and blood and battles that should have killed us both. But we made it, against all odds, against all reason. We found something worth fighting for, each other. Years later, when people asked how we met, I'd smile and say, he bought me at an auction. And when they looked shocked, Dante would add, best investment I ever made. It wasn't a fairy tale. Our life together was marked by violence and danger, by enemies who never stopped coming, by a world that would never fully accept us. But it was ours, and that was more than enough, because love isn't about perfection. It is not about safety or normalcy or living the life others expect you to live. It is about finding someone who sees you, really sees you, and chooses you anyway. Someone who stand with you against the world, who fight for you, bleed for you, live for you. I'd been sold like property, marked like possession, bound to a life I never chose. But in the end, I'd found freedom in the most unexpected place, in the arms of a dangerous alpha who taught me that sometimes the monsters are the ones who save us.